welcome to the Dr.Milton Social Work Show. So it is Saturday, the 30th of May, when I'm recording this. And right now in several urban communities around the country, there is protests and violent protests around the issue of police brutality and injustice and rogue police officers and the inability and failure of the judiciary to deliver justice in these very clear cases of excessive force. And whether you believe in historical oppression or not, in this era of people holding video cameras and cell phones with the ability to record instances of police brutality that used to be invisible to us. We certainly knew about them from time immemorial, particularly on the white power establishment and their so-called serving the protection of black citizens in this country. You know, it all goes back to chattel slavery, right? When black people have been socially controlled and dehumanized, and even when the Civil War happened and emancipation occurred, there was still deeply held convictions on the part of, Anglo-WASP power structures. And their feeling of supremacy and the old order, and wanting to have that back. And so, because of systemic discrimination, oppression, and racism, many legislatures, whether in the city, state, national levels, do not have people of color represented in sufficient numbers to pass laws that could address and redress some of these historical problems. So we have an ongoing perpetuation of systemic oppression and disparity in our country insofar as the African American is concerned. And how we are with the least of us is how we are with most of us, people of color. So that what befell the Native Americans and what befell the African American, so easily that system can transition to the oppression of the brown, Latin American, the Asian Americans, and not just in wartime, the Arab Americans, the Middle Eastern Americans. Because we all do not enjoy the privilege of having power in this country. We do not run in sufficient numbers police departments or cities or state legislatures or our government, whether it's in the lower house of Congress or the Senate, and our president. We've had 45 presidents. One was an African American that we know of exclusively. So we have this historical issue where there has always been injustice perpetuated onto African Americans. And how that plays out most times is in sheer violence. It happened on the plantations. It happened after the war with so-called jubilation and the black codes and Jim Crow, all the way up to the 1960s, where times like this weekend I'm reminded of the riots, the sacrifice of so many black people, my ancestors, and righteous allies from the dominant culture, white people, who stood shoulder to shoulder with the activists of that generation to usher in some of the first sets of laws that truly gave African Americans in this country an opportunity for some mobility out of the entrenchment of pernicious poverty, all the places where there's not equality in our country, whether it's in housing, employment, healthcare, the judiciary, the economy. So these disparities that we shined a great light on when we all were made to sit silent under the full weight of the fear of the coronavirus for these last 3 months, where we all had to sit with the quietness of our communities, where the animals are taking over again. Humans have slowed down. Essential workers have always been working. Many are social workers, certainly the healthcare folks, certainly the fire and police, the people in retail businesses, the people still getting us food, the people are still working those farms to get us food. You know, there are segments of the economy that still have worked through this coronavirus, but many of us have been sitting home as we were told to stem the tide of this horrific pandemic. But what we saw slowly unfolding over the course of these 3 months has been these divides and divisions. When we see who's dying disproportionately from the coronavirus, black and brown, poor people, 100,000 plus so far, it has put a light on the inequities in this country. And some wonderful things have been happening in this time of withdrawal from our regular lives. The environment is clearing up. Our carbon footprint has diminished. There have been some benefits around the ozone layer closing up. There weren't any school shootings. Overall, gun violence had almost come down to zero for a great portion of the time we've been here on self-quarantine, sheltering at home. But the one constant that has happened, even during the pandemic, has been the inequity around community policing. What do I mean by that? Well, we've had curfews in place since mid-March. And technically, when there's a curfew, if you're walking those streets after 9 o'clock, 7 o'clock, whatever the curfew is in your municipality, a law enforcement officer can approach you and say, hey, what are you doing? Are you an essential worker? Are you heading to the hospital? Like you're supposed to be at home. We're trying to stem the tide of this pandemic. And when you have that encounter with the police officer, you have to tell them why you're out breaking the curfew. And if you don't have a good enough reason, you can be cited. So you get a citation. If you encounter with the cops and they run your number, they run your plate, they run your name and your address, and you have outstanding warrants, this, that, or the other, guess what? You're going to jail. Well, that has been happening nonstop since mid-March. But the overwhelming number of people who have been stopped by the police have been people of color, in particular black people. Does that mean white folks aren't walking out past curfew? No. It means that their lives aren't socially controlled. Historically and in this modern time, today, not socially controlled like the bodies of black people. I think the next sort of swath of our humanity that can relate to this is women. Our bodies are controlled by the state as well, right? Around reproductive freedom, yeah, birth control, abortion, you know. But even in the midst of this pandemic, when violence has decreased, there's still been these encounters with police officers, with black men in particular. We even had a case recently of a black woman in her bed with her husband, an essential worker, a nurse. The police raided the wrong home. The black man in bed with his wife, and I'm so sorry I can't remember her name right now, thought someone was breaking into his home, had a legally registered weapon to protect his castle, to stand his ground, shot at an officer, did not kill him. And guess what? The black man went to jail. And his wife was shot mercilessly while she slept in her own bed. Why doesn't stand your ground work for black people? I'll give you another example. There are all these protests going on at state houses with very heavily armed, overwhelmingly white males. But I see women and children too, who are wrapped in the flag, and they have their AK-15s and long guns and weapons, and they're suited up in their camouflage suits. And they meet a line of police officers in Michigan, in Trenton, in Sacramento, lots of cities, state capitals. And the police hold their line. People are approaching them during a pandemic, no masks, because they're angry, because the state is trying to control their behavior. Hands off our lives, they say. Don't tell me we can't go outside if we want to. Don't tell me I have to wear a mask. Don't tell me I can't get my hair cut. I can't go into a restaurant. Don't tell me I can't operate my business. Look, I understand the economic impact we're experiencing. We have a government that has failed us with a strategy around this. Other nations are going through a pandemic too, but they have figured out a way to keep their economy going by investing in their people. There are some countries that are giving $2,000 a month to every single person in their country. Look, I don't know where we're getting our money from. We got a lot of it. We have $2 trillion come out like this. But Trump made a decision, and the Republicans have made a decision. That is all of the wealth of this great nation they are willing to put on the line to save us all from calamity. That rejection of responsibility on the part of this current administration has given rise to all this angst that is happening economically in our country. So these white folks are upset. Black folks too. People are losing jobs. But these white folks meet a line of policemen at a state capitol, spitting in their face without masks during a pandemic. Children, wives, and white men, and their husbands. And they're shouting, and they're cursing, and they're pushing up against the police. And those police hold their line. They do not retaliate. They exercise extreme restraint. And they are interviewed afterwards to say these people have the right to protest. But that is not true when black people encounter a line of policemen during their protests. It has never happened in this country. So why is that different? Why is that different? Part of that answer is rooted in history. You know, black folks aren't considered human. Black folks there's a different set of rules for black people in this country, always has been. But all black lives matter. I woke up sad this morning. The violence happening in Minneapolis, Atlanta, Brooklyn, New York, other places. Doesn't have to be this way. But it is here. You've got a pandemic, a health crisis, an economic crisis, and you have that gaping wound in the American psyche of black-white race relations festered to the top. And again, so much of this goes back to this current administration and their rhetoric and their inability to promote a message of tolerance, to foment messages that would bring us together. It's always stoking the divisions, always vilifying the other, always a nod to the clans, always a nod to the alt-right, right? I mean, I just read a report a few minutes ago that many of the people arrested in Minneapolis, they weren't black folks. They were white nationalists. You see, the white nationalists want a war. They want a race war. I don't want a race war. I want justice. I want equality. I don't want a race war. I mean, I know the way that tyrants and dictators and other governments of that kind have fallen in the past has certainly been with bloodshed. And I don't know. I don't want the bloodshed. I really don't. How do we usher in a time with more justice? How do we do it with the least amount of bloodshed? How do we do it with no more bloodshed of the victims of historical oppression? Black folks have been on the lines for a long time. We've lost a lot of people on this march to freedom and justice. And I think we have to stop now and take a hard look at ourselves. That's what we are required to do in this moment. We need to think about what I do to perpetuate a system that is built on the principle of white supremacy, to perpetuate a system that is built on the subjugation and exploitation of people of color and the poor in this country. Because check this out. A poor man, whether he's black or white, a poor person, whether they're black or white, we face the same struggles. And most of those struggles, like the complaints about employment and taxes and services and these sort of things, black and white folks have that in common. There are black and white poor people in this country who are suffering the same suffering. But somehow the ruling class, corporate America, the people in power, have managed to convince that white man that they're not responsible for the lack of resources and jobs and good health care and good education and job security. They're not responsible. The reason why you're suffering, white man, is because of that black or brown person. They took your job. They take your health care. They take things from you. And that is just a lie. It has been a lie for a long time. It's a very simple premise. Divide and conquer. We don't have to make it complicated. It is a strategy that has worked for capitalism for a very long time. When are we going to say enough? When are black folks and white folks We're going to see that we have common suffering. We're going to see we have common needs, common goals. We want good health care. We want to live in safe neighborhoods. We want affordable housing. We want education from cradle to grave. We want childcare. We want affordable and quality food. We want services. We want affordable services. We want our governments to be transparent and work in our interest. We want opportunity to achieve and excel on our own merit. But we have to level the playing field, because the playing field in our economy and in our social structure, in our educational institutions, and our other institutions in this country have never been level and even for blacks and whites. It's always been advantage to the dominant culture. And that has to stop. It isn't on black people to usher in the change we all seek. It's up to the dominant culture to create the change we wish to seek. We need allies. We need anti-racist whites. We're going to stand up and change institutions. I mean, black folks are fighting the fight every day. And I'm going to tell you something, my heart is heavy. I've seen more black men cry this week on videos, in Zoom rooms, on news stations. It breaks my heart. It has been a heavy lift for black people. Where are the allies? What are you doing about it? How do you interrupt violence toward African Americans? How do you stand up for the neighbors in your community that don't look like you? What messages do you send to your children about the other person? Are you raising Beckys and Karens who think when a black man approaches them in Central Park, in the rambles where bird watchers are, and a black man dares to say to you, ma'am, can you put your dog on the leash? They're not allowed to roam free here. They're going to scare the birds off. There's a sign, there's a rule. And that black woman, again, caught with the camera. We saw it as it was taking place. She said, I'm calling the police. I'm going to tell them an African American male here is trying to harm me. What does the dispatcher hear when she hears that? What is a cop getting amped up for on their route to a call like that? She didn't say it was over a leash. She didn't say she was violating the rules. And by the way, how she treated that dog in that video was cruel and humane. I was very happy to hear that dog was taken away from her. But beyond that, because sometimes, look, we treat dogs better in this country than black folks sometimes. But, that's a whole other conversation. And I only say that because of this. Did you know that our child welfare system in the United States of America was formed in part by borrowing some stuff from England, our founding country, right? But actually, the nuts and bolts of how we created a child welfare system, the model we use was the ASPCA. Dogs had more rights than children did in this country. Like I said, that's a whole other video. I'm talking about the Beckys and the Karens who feel like they can just lie and make up stories about black folks, mean them no harm at all, who are just living their lives. But for these white folks, these Beckys and Karens, it doesn't make sense that a black person's going to a pool, coming into a high-rent, luxurious apartment, being in Central Park. are you going to do about this? Okay? What are you going to do? Are you going to be like those citizens in Atlanta, or excuse me, in Georgia, when that young black man, Ahmaud Arbery, was just taking a jog? Are you going to be the one saying, oh my God, there's a black man running through our neighborhood, he's up there, something's going on, something's wrong? Black men can't take jogs through suburban communities? Is this the America we want to be? I don't want that kind of America. And I really think you don't either. You're not the Klan. You're not a Nazi. You're not on the fringe. You're not the alt-right. You're not that. The overwhelming majority of you are not that. Decent and good people. And this is the time for decent and good people to stand up. Take responsibility for what you do to perpetuate hate toward a person who lives differently than you. The Muslim, the person who wears the hijab, the brown-skinned person, the Asian person, the African-American person. What do you do to perpetuate hate? And how do you stop it? In yourself, in your family, in your community, in your state, in our country, in our world. White folks have got to take up this mantle now. Our democracy depends on it. Our democracy depends on it. Our peace and serenity and security depends on it. Look, we're supposed to be a Christian nation. We're a nation that's spiritual, founded on spiritual principles. Where's the love? Where's the tolerance? Where's the kindness? Where's the patience? Where's the equality, humanity, and justice? It's in every religion. Even agnostics understand the need for justice and equality. Even the atheist understands the need for justice and equality. You're a Christian tolerating hate, fomenting hate. Do you read and listen to hate being spewed at you through Fox News, through your president? You have to challenge the hate. This is our time. This is our moment. We have a choice. I know what side I'm on. What side are you on? What kind of America do you want? What kind of Hudson County do you want? Essex County, Somerset County, Middlesex County, New Jersey, nation. What kind of country do you want? I want a country where everyone's equal. I want a country where there's justice. I want a country where there's freedom and responsibility. What kind of change do you want to see? It won't happen by magic. It won't happen just with prayers. It does work with faith, and we should have hope, but it works with deeds and behavior. Gandhi said it. Let's be the change we wish to see in the world. We're all connected. We're all interdependent. Not just on each other in New Jersey, but around the world. We're all connected. We all need each other. And I hope we find the love in our hearts to do that difficult work. Thanks for watching.